your products don't speak for themselves. When
Yeah.
people ask you stuff, you have to engage with them. You have to provide them information so that they can make an executive decision as to whether they want to spend their money with you.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Welcome back to another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, business friends. I'm here live today with my beautiful sister. Well, not live. We're not, going live on YouTube or anything, but we get to be in the same room together. And so that's super exciting because that doesn't happen too often. So, hey, girl, hey.
Hey, Vivian. It's very interesting talking to you and kind of looking at you, but also making sure I'm looking at the camera as well.
Yeah, let's prioritize our friends on the other end of this video.
Yeah.
I'm really excited because today we are doing a topic that I think is definitely not done often. And so it's kind of one of those things that you start doing events, markets, craft fairs, and pop-ups, and you're like, why the heck did nobody tell me these things? Like, am I the only one experiencing this? And so what we're hoping to do today is to bring up some of these key talking points just to catch you up to speed if you've never participated in an event to promote your small business or to physically sell your products and services. We want this to just equip you to go out there and start doing that because there is a lot to it. It is cumbersome. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort. For a lot of people, it's nerve-wracking. There's a lot of unexpected unknowns, a lot of unknowns out there. And so we just want to equip you with a little knowns. Right, Chelsea?
No, exactly. And I want to point out that part of what we're going to be sharing with you guys is specifically tips and tricks, little tricks that we've learned over the years from actually participating in these events. So it's not information that you're going to get from like a blog post or something like that. Like this is something we've experienced and how to deal with it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you threw that in there because the proof is in the pudding. I think if you have never done an event and if you guys need a little background on Chelsea and I as to why you think we have any experience to talk about this. I've been in healthcare marketing now as a director of marketing for over 15 years. And I can tell you that in that capacity, I've worked hundreds of events at this time. It's just one of those things where because we're out there promoting our services and our doctors, it's expected that we show up in the community. And this is just a part of what we do. So for me, I actually look forward to them because I love being out there. As you guys know, I'm a little more of an extrovert than Chelsea is, but I love being out there and just meeting people, being able to talk to them and share our services with them from the healthcare perspective. And then Chelsea, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with it?
Yeah, so I actually was also in the healthcare marketing field for about 3 years. So I've definitely participated in a bunch of events during that time frame. I also, now that I'm not in healthcare marketing, I do still frequent events and markets and craft fairs, all of that stuff. I've kind of embedded myself in that kind of sphere, even though I do not have products to sell. But I'm still a part of that family, I guess, community.
Maybe that's what we need to do is get our shirts out there, start selling them at these events and stuff. So Chelsea, where do you want to pick up this conversation?
Well, before we get started, I do want to say kind of a plug to ourselves. If you want to hear all of this information and more about how to really rock out your market or your fair, we actually have a course that we created called Rock Your Fair, and it has all of our information, everything we've learned. Even more than that, we did research to make sure that we shared with you guys all of the information you need to know to participate in craft fairs, markets, event marketing, that sort of thing. So if you watch this episode and you say, you know what, I feel like I need a little more information because I'm still feeling a little iffy about participating in my market, then go check out Rock Your Fair.
Awesome. Additionally to that, I just want to say up front, a lot of people are, if they're service-based, they sometimes think that they won't get enough or they won't get as much value as somebody who is selling a physical product at these events and markets, and that's not necessarily the case. So we encourage you that if you run any business, regardless of what industry you're in, what product or service you sell, seriously sit down and think about whether or not you engaging in the community and showing up in this way, having a display table, a booth, seeing people within your community and talking to them about your business, seriously give it consideration in saying, could this potentially benefit and grow my business?
Absolutely. I mean, considering the fact that both of us are experienced in markets and, well, really more events is coming from a service-based business, right? Healthcare.
Yeah, and I've seen it on both ends where it's not just, so you guys have probably heard the term B2C, business to consumer. So that's typically, let's say I'm selling t-shirts, I'm selling jewelry, I'm taking my business and selling it to consumers, to customers. But there's also this whole thing of like B2B, business to business. If you're selling a product that is targeted at other businesses, there are events that specifically are targeted towards business owners. And so, I challenge you, just think about it. Who is your target audience? And give it a Goog and see if it's something that like you have an event that is aimed at this particular target audience that you could potentially attend. One of my favorite websites that I go to see a list of events in the area is actually called 10times.com. Y'all, I kid you not, it has anything from craft fairs listed in there to big conventions and conferences that you could go set up display tables at. It has a lot of filters in there that you can actually look by city, by geographic area, by product, service, whatever it is. So I highly encourage you go to 10times.com and just peruse, see if there's something out there that may be beneficial and may actually be specific to your particular industry.
Well, I love that. And let's go ahead and get started talking about what people don't tell you about when it comes to participating in markets, craft fairs, events, pop-ups. And my first one is the time a market starts is not when you have to be there, like when the market actually starts, right?
Yeah.
How
common misconception there, right?
I mean, I feel like in the back of our minds, we know, yeah, we need a setup, but you forget how long that's going to take. Or if you've never been to a market and you've never practiced your setup, it's going to take you 10 times longer than if you practice. So that's like my number one tip. My first tip for this episode is you need to practice your setup. How long is it going to take? Maybe you set up and you find that there's some problems that you didn't see happening, but now that you've done it the first time, you know how to fix it. You know how to make sure this doesn't happen. Maybe you do your setup and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, this actually looks really bad. Like, I don't want to set up this way. And now you can rethink it. But if you wait until you are actually at a market to set up, it's going to go wrong.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, my tip is actually going to be curious bear. Okay. It's the one Care Bear that nobody tells you about, but it's being super curious and asking all the questions, because if you are participating in an event, the event organizer should provide you all of this information, part of what Chelsea is talking about. However, having experience with this, I can tell you some event organizers are rad, and they will be organized and they will tell you upfront exactly what to expect. And then you have others that literally give you zero information, and you have to email like 3 times and be like, hey, I need you to provide me with X, Y, and Z. So some of the most commonly asked questions you should be emailing them or communicating to them if they do not provide to you upfront is exactly what Chelsea just said, which is what time is set up. Because if the event starts at 11, I'll give you an example. I worked an event last week. It went from 12 to 2. The setup time was as early as 10, but they required that everybody be in place by 11:30 because their audience was a little of the older demographic. And as they told us, and it was true, they're like, they are going to be on time and waiting in line. And so once we open the doors, they are beelining it. And sure enough, they did. So yeah, so be sure that you're asking them what time is set up for booths and for tables. The other set of questions that you can ask is regarding to what Chelsea was stating earlier, your setup, okay? Ask them, do they provide tables, or are you responsible for bringing your table? If they provide tables, how big is that table? Okay. Do they provide a tablecloth on it? Will they have a tent there? If so, how big is the tent? If they're not going to have tents, but they're going to give you allocated space, how big is that allocated space so that you know if your tent fits within it, right? If you're doing an outside event. So think of those two things with regards to what she was saying, and ask the follow-up questions that you need if they are not providing you that up front, and if you're not clear. And I'm just going to give you guys 100% permission, because I always do. If you are feeling weird about going back and asking someone and you're saying, I don't feel comfortable going back and asking them this because I really should know, or I could probably find it. Y'all just ask the question. It takes 2 seconds and nobody's going to care. I mean, better safe than sorry, right? So you don't want to mess up what you're doing just because you were unwilling to ask, or you were a little too shy, or you thought, what are they going to think of me if I don't know this? Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah. I have an example of this that it's not from a market or event, but Vivian.
I already know what you're going to bring up.
So last Christmas, Vivian and I, the season marketer, did Christmas in the Square in downtown Somerville, which is where I live. So for a little background, there is a downtown area of Somerville. There's a nice little grassy area with a fountain. And for Christmas, they let small business owners get a little plot, and they can set up a display for Christmas. Usually it's Christmas trees. It doesn't have to be for Christmas in the Square. We actually did a Barbie box. It was so cute. I'm going to add a picture if you're watching on YouTube because I'm so proud of it. It looks so good. Here's the thing. You have a very specific allotted amount of space. Vivian and I have both done this event before, not for the season marketer, but for our prospective healthcare businesses. In the past, they were very vague about the space. Like, if you went over, it's okay. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Well, this year, they were cracking down. Like, this is your space. You can't go past it, because they had another event in the Square with children and, so the children don't mess up your display. You need to be in your space. Well, our display, to hold it up, went over. How much would you say it was over our space?
Maybe a foot. So what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting about that, it's a blessing and a curse to have a woodworking husband because he will build you a solid box. However, this solid box, once it's out there, I mean, you can't just cut the legs off, right? And he had already adhered the stuff. So it was the reason ours was a little too big on the back end was because it was a Barbie box that was built out of what do you call it? Not sheetrock, it's plywood. It had plywood and wood. And so, as you guys know, if you want, because we were wanting it to be a photo opportunity that had a QR
Mm-hmm.
code attached to it, and the photo, if we wanted people to get in it, we wanted to be sure that it didn't tip over. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was reinforced on the back and it did its job, except for when the space police, which is what I'm going to
Yeah.
call them, they're very sweet girls. The girls that were the organizers, they were very sweet, very upfront.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, hey, we're sorry. Typically, this hasn't been a problem in years. The other thing, Chelsea, to your point, it was a safety issue. So when they
Yeah.
said 10 by 10 or whatever, they meant 10 by 10 and not an inch over, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want anyone tripping over anything. And then additionally, it was in that nice plaza where they set this up. The town has spent a lot of money on irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they know where that's at and they don't want it to,
Yeah.
to ruin that investment. So understandable, but to your point, Chelsea, that's why space is so important because we were last minute. I
Yeah.
don't even remember what we did. I think we took some portion of it off and it was still very
Mm-hmm.
stable. But I remember thinking, I was like, gosh, like now we know. Now we know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great example of, okay, maybe they were cool with it in the past, but you should maybe always try to try to stick to the rules.
Well, and it's also okay if you're going to be what did I call it? A question care bear. What did I call it? A curious care bear. Be curious about the important things, right? So
Mhm.
maybe what I should have done in retrospect is seeing that it did kind of go outside of those dimensions. I should have emailed them in advance before we
Yeah.
got the truck and lugged it out there and said, hey, it's 3 inches off, it's 6 inches
Yeah.
off. Is that going to be a problem? And then let them respond back to me. But that would have saved you and I, having to stress out at the
Yeah.
site and then having to come up with a plan B, and also it would have given us more confidence in that what we had and what we were taking out there. So to Chelsea's point, just to drive that home, setting up your stuff ahead of time so that you can see what it looks like at home in the comfort of your home
Mhm.
or somewhere else just helps because then you feel good the day of to say, hey, I've already checked. I already know exactly how I'm going to display everything, and it's good to
Mhm.
go.
And Vivian, since we're talking about table displays right now, do you maybe want to mention the exciting service that we're working on bringing on for the season marketer?
Yeah, so the idea here is, you know how sometimes you guys will see people say like website audits, right? For like a flat fee, you send us your website link, we'll go through and we'll audit and tell you how to improve your website, right? For SEO or anything else. We're going to do the same thing, same concept, except with display tables, booths, and setups. So what that means is we'll have this up on our website. Hopefully here within the next like 2 to 3 weeks. But if you're interested, if you have a display setup that you're just like, I don't know, like I feel like this is me. I'm not an interior decorator. Okay. That's why honestly I'm like, I would need to have somebody come out and be like, yeah, that looks great. Or maybe we can make it more cohesive or whatever. So I just understand decorating my house, not my jam.
Mhm.
If you feel like there is something missing with your tent display or whatever when you're out there working these events and you want some feedback from people that have been there, done that, and seen everything under the sun on how you can improve it, then that's what this service is going to be. So it's going to be kind of like a display audit, if you will, where you would send in pictures or maybe a video. We'd have a Dropbox where you can share that stuff with Chelsea and I. We'll send you back a recorded message from the both of us that basically says, hey, here are some opportunities that we see that can help you increase your sales or just create a more engaging environment for people to come in and draw them in.
Yeah, and if you guys are anything like me and you have a significant other that absolutely does not care at all and will just say, yeah, it's fine. And if you don't have someone like Vivian, who, when I was doing markets, I could be like, hey, Vivian, look at my display. What do you think? And we could work together. If you don't have anyone like that, this is perfect for you then. Especially, again, if you have someone who's just going to be like, yeah, it looks fine. Don't worry about it.
I think the next level of service, Chelsea, is going to be hiring 𝘮𝘰𝘯𝘵, our mother, to do this, because I kid you not, she's fabulous. When Chelsea and I were doing that event that she was just talking about, where we wanted to promote the seasoned marketer, and this particular event draws a large crowd of families and a lot of these people that go out to that area because they have it up for weeks. And so it's the thing to do. All right. They're like, hey, let's get the family in the car. Let's drive out there, walk through, get pictures taken, because there are some really cool creative displays that they can take pictures in front of. And so when we were out there doing that and preparing, our mom was, I mean, she will step up to the plate. She'll be there and she'll tell you when something don't look good, if it needs to move. And I think that's where it helps, especially, I'm just going to say this, you guys, sometimes small business ownership is lonely. All right. Yeah. If you are doing it, before I had Chelsea come on board, it was just me. And I can tell you that it helps having somebody else. Like it just helps with, like, sometimes if I just call her and I'm like, hey, just listen to me and don't judge what I'm telling you, because it's all kind of scatterbrained, but like, help me at least piece it together. Or does this even make sense? And she'll do just that. It helps to have that springboard. We want to be that for you if you are doing these craft fairs by yourself and you're just like, yeah, I go out and I'll get people that buy every once in a while, but is there something that I can do where people will just be like, wow, like what? Or I'm just going to say this, Chelsea, sometimes we notice a lot of times where people don't have like pricing or anything like that. So imagine this, y'all. You get a crowd of 10 people coming up to your booth. How are you going to talk to all 10 of them at the same time? You have to give them something, right? So like you don't have to list your prices completely if you don't want to, even though that probably is a good idea. But there's, there's got to be a way to help you if you're working that table by yourself and you don't have somebody there to support you to be able to make those sales without having to engage, and repeat the same answers over and over again.
Yeah, that's also for people who might be shopping who are introverts, they probably just don't even want to ask.
Yeah, so people like Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, now.
When it comes to shopping, she will ask, y'all. She pipes up.
That's true. Real quick tangent, and then we'll go on to our next point. When we had set up the Barbie box, I was so proud of it. It looks so good. And again, like you said, it's a big thing in Somerville. A lot of high school acquaintances. Okay. So people that I'm friends with on Facebook, but like we're not close enough for me to be talking to them. They were posting pictures in the box. And I was like, oh my God, I really want to comment and be like, oh, I made that. That's mine. But we're not close like that, so I didn't say anything. And then later on, Maya and I were out doing something, and she was like, oh, did you see so-and-so posted a picture of them in your box? I really wanted to comment saying, oh, that's Chelsea's.
I
just
love
thought
it.
That was cute.
I love it. Yeah. Well, and who doesn't love a good photo op, especially because we had done that QR code on there, and which, I mean, not patting ourselves on the back, but the reason we did that QR code, y'all, is because we actually set up a separate web page, and we can monitor and track how many visits we got from it. So we got good data on there, and it funneled them onto our email list if they wanted to. Not everybody signed up for it, but it was a great way to track to see if that's something we wanted to do again this year, because we did invest a couple $100s in it. Yeah. And so I think the data all points to, we'll do that event again. But that's another I'm just going to toss in another tip, Chelsea, but it helps if you guys are able to track your sales and stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you there are varying degrees of this. So you may have a system that does this for you automatically when someone goes and checks out. Or I saw there's our friend Karen has a neighbor who's a painter. She's a very good painter. I love her stuff. And I actually Karen gifted me one of her paintings because we saw her at a market. So I got one for Christmas. And the interesting part was she had a notebook there and she was writing down what she had sold because she has original paintings and then she has a lot of prints. And I'm guessing that's not her full inventory, but in order for her to know how much inventory she had left and what she needed to reorder or replace, she was logging it on a notebook, good old pencil and paper. And so whatever works for you guys, don't let things like that stop you from working events. Don't think that like, oh, well, I don't have a system set up. Make up your own system. Yeah. Do it the old school way, okay? Like just temporarily until you don't have to do that anymore, but that's still a system.
Perfect. I love that. And I'm glad that you brought that up because, again, we are such sticklers for data because, again, your data is going to point you in the direction of what's going to be best for your small business.
Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events, created by 2 marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonedmarketer.com and click on workshops.
Our next little topic, the little thing that people don't tell you about when you participate in these markets. When are you going to eat?
Yeah.
The important stuff.
I'm glad you're bringing up the stuff that everybody needs to know, okay? Well, let's do this in twosies, okay?
Okay.
When are you going to eat and when are you going to, I would say the SHIT word, but I'm going to say do your business, okay? So those are 2 things that are very important, especially if you're working, full day events?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these events, even if it's not full day, they're usually going to last, maybe like 4 or 5 hours? Yeah, at some point, you're going to have to eat something. And don't tell me, oh no, it's fine, I'll just be hungry the entire time. That is going to impact your mood, which is going to impact your behavior, which is going to turn off people because you can tell when I'm hangry, right? Like I'm not going to sit here at a vendor booth hangry and people are going to walk by and be like, whoa, I'm not touching that. Like there's a lot going on. We're just going to walk by, right?
Yeah, I've caught myself doing this. If I've worked a long event, I want y'all to think about this logically. Sometimes, because in my healthcare day job, sometimes we are going out and we're actually attending events that are all day long, and they are also geared towards workers in different industries. And sometimes they have 3 shifts. Okay. Which means if the HR director wants to provide value to every single employee, which they have to essentially, they need you there from 6 a.m. Think about what time you got to be setting up a table to be there and ready to go at 6 a.m. Okay. I've done that. So 6 a.m. all the way till maybe like 3 p.m. That's a long day. If I do not think ahead as to bringing snacks, bananas because they'll give me energy, a thing of water because I don't want to be thirsty, whatever it is. If I don't do stuff like this throughout the day, imagine what I'm going to be like. The Vivian that shows up at 2 p.m. to talk to one of their employees is going to be very different than the Vivian that showed up bright and bushy-tailed at 6 a.m. And that's not fair to them. And then the other part of it is that's not fair to you because your body needs fuel. And that is what's going to be what gives you sustenance to actually be able to make it through all those hours and to show up and represent your business the best you can. Because y'all, let me tell you something. There is, when I work at events, there is one piece of feedback that I get all the time. And we laugh at this with my team members now because she always says, gosh, we're always the popular table. And I'm like, do you know what it is? Is because we show up. We show up, and it's not the promo products and stuff like that. I mean, all that helps, but it's because we are engaging. We're out there talking to people. We have conversations. We ask them about themselves. We don't try to push and sell them stuff that they don't need. Like it's a relationship like anything else. If I'm required to do that, then I need to be sure that I am physically able to show up and do that.
Exactly. So bring snacks. Another point I want to make, and this came from Ray, the design diva. Her and I went out the other day, just like for coffee or something like that. And we were talking about markets. And she said, two things that I've noticed that vendors do not think about is eating. And she's like, they don't consider the fact that if you are working one of these markets that has really good food trucks, you're probably going to spend money on food.
Yes.
That's going to impact how much money you bring home at the end of the day of this event. So she's like, maybe you want to add that to your budget when you're looking at how much you're going to spend at this market. Like, I'm probably going to want to buy something from this food truck. So let me actually add that in to my list, right?
I love it. I love that she's like budgeting. Well, and it's I don't think enough people do that, to her point. So it's a great tip.
We'll come back to budgeting. But the other thing she said is a lot of new vendors will come to her and she's like, hey, what am I supposed to do if I have to use the restroom? And she's like, go use the restroom. Like ask a vendor who's next to you to watch your booth. But besides that, like what else are you going to do?
Yeah, the only thing I could think that would prep or that is if you did come out with some type of sign. So let's say, Chelsea, one of the last events that we went to together, which you're actually going to this weekend, I think, the Feminist Magic Market. Yeah. Okay. So it's a great event that draws a lot of people out. It's outdoors and people can bring tents and stuff like that to set up their entire displays and to sell their products. The only thing I can think that would maybe be beneficial to that is you could make, but see, I'm adding cost. You could make a sandwich sign that says like, hey, I'm temporarily out, be back at this time or whatever, right? Be back in 5 minutes. But the easiest and most logical thing to do would be exactly what Chelsea just said, which is to, go to your display neighbor, okay, your event neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to pop over to the restroom for 5-10 minutes. Do you mind just keeping an eye out for my booth? And if anybody asks, just let them know. I'll be right back.
I will say something that you can do to kind of help is know where the bathroom is ahead of time. So you're not running around wasting a bunch of time trying to find it. But
yeah, and girl, I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I think I'm just weird in my 40s. If I'm going to set up shop anywhere for a day, there are going to be a couple things that I ask about up front. Restrooms is going to be one of them. Any water stations is going to be another. Parking, you probably already know where that's at, but just getting the lay of the land ahead of time before you actually need to know is helpful. The other part of it too is if you're working an event that is all day, know where the event organizers are stationed or
Yep.
if they're going to be doing rounds, right? Because the thing is,
Mhm.
if you were to need something immediately,
Yeah.
you want to be able to know exactly where to go find them to ask.
Okay, so you mentioned it earlier, so let's go back to it. Budgeting. You need to actually think about all the stuff that is included in your spend and your cost when you are participating in a market or an event. It's not just the vendor booth fee, it's also the gas that you're spending to get there. Is it far away so you have to get an Airbnb or hotel? How many days, if you are a storefront, how many days are you going to be closed? Is it just a 1 day event? Can you keep the store open and also be at this event? All of your decorations, all of your added designs to your table, the table itself. Did you have to purchase the table? All of this stuff needs to be included in this is how much I have to budget to participate in this market. Am I going to buy food from the food truck? Add that in there.
Yeah, the one that sticks out to me that I think a lot of people don't often think about, and this is across the board, not just for events. This is if you are any type of business that does services or sells products. Take, for example, when we send an invoice to any of our clients, whatever invoice generating platform we are using takes a cut of that. All right. So if you guys are out there doing Apple Pay, doing anything along those lines, PayPal, if it's specific for business purposes and you have a platform that's doing that, Stripe, maybe, remember they take a cut of that. Right?
Yeah.
So just be sure that you know upfront the percentage that they take so that you know what your margins are on the product so that you don't overestimate and think, hey, like Chelsea said, because you're pairing it up with, you're trying to just, I don't know, guesstimate, get the best estimate for how much you're going to spend that day on this particular event. Well, if the event is small, it may not even be worth it for you to go because you're like, hey, the products, my margin's not big. There
Yeah.
aren't a lot of people there. So all of that is going to help you with deciding which events really are worth your time because we don't want you out there wasting your time. You could be doing other stuff.
Exactly. And I'm we could talk about this all day long and I'm not going to go into it, but I do want to say just because a market is successful doesn't mean it's going to be successful for you.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there. So make sure that you're actually making an educated decision to participate in a market or fair.
Yeah, because it definitely is dependent on, I know the way Chelsea likes to say is, what's the vibe? What's the vibe of
Mm-hmm.
the place? And is it along the same vibe that, your
Yeah.
products and in business and services has? Because there are a lot of events that you could participate in. It doesn't mean that they are all the right fit,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. I do want to see, we're going down the rabbit hole, but I do want to bring up something that people don't tell you about for markets is you may not be the only vendor selling those kind of products. Is that going to hurt you? Because of course we small business owners, we're all supporting each other. We want to help each other, but let's be honest. Again, this is coming from the conversation I had with Ray. If there are 5 different vendor booths selling jewelry and you're another jewelry booth, do people want to see jewelry anymore? Right? So maybe when you're going through the decision making of, am I going to participate in this market or not? Ask the questions, ask the event organizer, how many people are going to be selling this kind of product? Like, can you just give me an estimate? How many people sold this product last year? Just try to get a feel.
Yeah, curious bear. Be curious, bear,
Mm-hmm.
and ask. And it doesn't, you're not asking them specifically. You're not saying, hey, tell me exactly how many vendors, even though
Yeah.
they should be able to tell you because they're organizing and they have a vendor list. They
Mm-hmm.
should be able to tell you how many other, crochet people will be there, or jewelry makers.
The next thing that I'm going to say is I would like to not be controversial. And if we're being honest with ourselves, it's not controversial. But here's the thing, guys. It is not enough. It is not good enough to just put your products out there. You need to interact with people. You need to be outgoing. You need to look like you actually want to be there. The way that you present yourself has such a strong impact on the success that you're going to have at these markets, at these events. Vivian, like you were saying earlier, you guys are always the popular table. It's not because of what you have. It's because you are actually willing to take the time and talk to people. And that is what's going to help you be successful. And I'm not trying to call people out. And I don't have specific.
How funny would it be if you did show up with a list today and you're like, let me call these vendors out.
Last time I was at the Feminist Magic Market, these people were sitting behind their table. Here's a list. No. But as someone who goes to a lot of markets and events and stuff like this, I notice that there is a good amount of people who are on their phones, who aren't talking to anyone, who are sitting down and just ignoring everyone walking by. And I know that you're probably tired. It's probably hot. If you want to make money, if you want your small business to be successful, you're going to have to suck it up. Look, this is coming from someone who I am an introvert, but I've done events. Okay, I've been out there in these long events with these shift changes. You got to be there all day. I've done these events. It is exhausting. It is not fair to the people for you to show them you don't want to be there.
Chelsea for event organizer president. I do want to blow up a common misconception. Okay. There's this weird link between being extroverted, what people think is being extroverted, and being good at showing up at events. I can tell you that the last event we went to, Chelsea, the Feminist Magic Market, there was a particular artist there that I bought something from. I think I bought something for you because your birthday was like right around the corner. Okay. What was her name?
𝘕𝘦𝘦𝘦𝘥
art.
Yeah, so it's EW.
Yeah, EW. Yeah. It was very, very particular artwork, right? And I think part of the reason I purchased two things was because I loved her personality. And I don't think she was particularly extroverted. If anything, she might have been a little more on the introverted side. We understand you guys are artists, you're creatives, you're jewelry makers. You are people that literally want to take this thing you love doing and you just want to make it your livelihood, right? Yeah. You're like, hey, I know I can make money doing this. I'm pretty good at what I do. Let me go work the events and the markets now. Fabulous. But like Chelsea said, there's got to be a little bit of like, your products don't speak for themselves. You have to speak for them. And remember that now everyone is so obsessed with storytelling. And the reason that I loved her in particular was, you know me, Chelsea, I will ask like 20 rapid fire questions at anybody on any given day. So I'm just like, when I go up there, I'm like, gosh, I'm asking her, I'm like, you drew every single one of these. She's like, yes. And then she also had stickers, vinyl stickers that she had made. Right. And then she had all this other stuff. And then, one of the questions I asked her is I was like, how long did it take you to figure out your style? Because it was a very particular style. And if I know one thing about artists is that's not necessarily something that happens overnight. A lot of people will work years to finally be like, wow, this is the type of artwork I love doing. And so her just engaging, telling me her story, her talking to you and I both about, what she loves about the business side of it and all that. That was definitely what drew me in, where I was like, she is such a cool person. I would love to have a piece of her artwork. And I know you were drawn to one in particular. And I was like, I want to gift that to you. That's it. It takes conversations to get you to that point, though. Had she not engaged with me, I probably would have just looked at a couple things and been like, oh, okay, it's fine. Maybe I would have bought something, maybe not. But just that 5-minute conversation, I was like, okay, I definitely want something now. So let me talk about how the opposite will backfire on you. Chelsea, do you not remember that Maya was with us and she went and approached, she wanted to buy something at one of the like health and wellness setups that they had. It was like the person had done, I think they did like soaps and bath salt, teas. That must have been at Tees. So she was wanting to buy something, and the guy, I guess the lady who was manning it left her husband there, and literally Maya had picked something up, and she goes, how much is this, the bag? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Let me text my wife. So he had to like text, call. It took about almost 10 minutes for his wife to respond. And in that time we were standing there and Maya was like, well, I could just probably get this at another booth. Like this was a conversation, sidebar conversation we were having. But so, to my point, if your products don't speak for themselves. When people ask you stuff, you have to engage with them. You have to provide them information so that they can make an executive decision as to whether they want to spend their money with you.
I have another story that involves Maya, which is a great example.
Maya, we're telling all your secrets, Maya.
We are. Well, here's the thing. Maya don't play. Like if she's going to purchase something, she's got to be sure about it. And you got to not mess it up, right? So we got to Feminist Magic a little early that time. And this one particular table that we were looking at, they were still kind of setting up. Maya's looking at something on one of the tables, and they pick up the table and move it.
While she's there.
While she's there looking at it. They didn't say anything to her. Like, Maya was like, I wouldn't have cared if you had acknowledged me and said, hey, excuse us for a second, we got to move this. But they just picked it up and moved it while Maya was looking at stuff, and she's like, let's leave. She's like, I was going to purchase something on that table. Now I don't want it. Now I'm done.
Well, and I think it's if someone's standing there, like just acknowledge them, right? Or say, I'm sorry, do you mind if I just move the table really quick because the setup isn't working for us right now? I mean, that's all it takes, y'all. It's called relationship and talking to people. Mom has this saying in Spanish that's why you are given a mouth. Okay. It's to communicate. Do not leave things up for interpretation. Like if you mean something, say it, right? If you need something, say it. Don't let it's not other people's responsibility to try to guess what you're going through, right?
Yeah. Okay, Vivian, I've saved the last thing for last. I guess that's how last goes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yes, you have.
I meant to say I have saved the most important thing for last, the most important point, the thing that people don't tell you. And I feel like we should talk about it more often. You are not for everybody. And people are probably going to say something as they walk by your booth. Maybe they'll say, I can make that myself, or I hate that, or that's too expensive. You're not for them.
Or my grandma used to make this. That's because some of the fashion's coming back up, right? A lot of people are crocheting, doing stuff like that. I've seen a lot on these Instagram reels where vendors are like, why does everyone feel the need to tell me their grandma made this back in the 70s? Like, whatever, I made it now in 2024. Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up because the best confidence builder is understanding that not everybody will like you and no longer having that need to have people accept you. Like, it's not, the example, the artwork that we bought that day, it's not for everybody. Like, it's, I brought it home and my husband was like, "What? What is that?" It's not for everybody. Everyone's got different taste. So it's okay that he doesn't like it. I'm the one who bought it. Like, I'm the one that, so you have, in Chelsea, we've seen a perfect example of this when we tell you guys that it's integral. It's so important to the success that you will have at these events to pick the right events, and they have to be your quote unquote vibe, because if you don't pick the right events, you're going to be left, not finding your tribe, your people that appreciate your artwork, your product, your service. And Chelsea did a video on this on TikTok, and it was so well done. She flat out said, we went to 𝘕𝘢𝘳𝘬𝘦𝘵. Okay, they're the vendors. If you guys have not Googled Walmart in South Carolina, please do it, because I guarantee you, you're going to be like, what? The vendors at this event are just cool and rad and eccentric. They're very quirky. Okay. And there's a group of people that love that. That would not be the most appropriate place for the Azalea Festival that Chelsea was talking about in this video, which is in downtown Somerville, that does more like, I don't know, family specific stuff. And they do all these like, artwork and sculptors and all of that. That would not be the right setting for, a vendor that is more geared towards the eccentric. And so just understanding that there are events out there for everybody, and you can find them. You just got to do a little digging.
Can we talk about how we took Mom to Walmart, and one of the vendors was like a leather worker, but like the whole thing was like harnesses and stuff, and like metal chokers with like spikes and stuff like that. And Mom was just like,
I do give mad props. She is up for anything. She will go anywhere with us. But I guarantee you, after that, she's like, turn down every invitation from Chelsea to go to. The cool thing, and Chelsea, this is so timely because you're going to laugh. Yesterday, I live out in the country, y'all, and I went to our local farmers market that they have every week. They have a handful of vendors out there, but it's very nice to know that they go there. I particularly go to buy like handmade soap from somebody and all this stuff. And so I go out there, and one of the shirts that I bought at this event, Walmart, and the shirt is actually this little crop top, and it's got a possum on there, an angry possum on it, and it says "always pissed." Okay, like, it's just the funniest shirt to me, especially when it's me of all people wearing it. And so
really quick, I got like not a matching one, but kind of a matching one. It's a crop top. It has a raccoon on it, and it says it's always time for crime.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I walked out there and I didn't think anything of it. I had the shirt on. I got 3 compliments in this very small farmer's market. One of them was from like a 12-year-old, which then made me I was left questioning. I'm like, Vivian, you're dressing like the cool kids. 12-year-olds love it. And then the other one was a mom who wanted me to show her daughter, who happened to be a vendor at the event, and they were cracking up laughing. They're like, oh my gosh, I love your shirt, this and that. And I told them, because she was actually, Chelsea, the girl that I was talking to yesterday, was a crochet vendor. And so she had done up like little potatoes and stuff like that. She had animals. And so I was telling her that I had gotten the shirt at Walmart. I was promoting the event. I told her, I said, go to their website. You're going to love it. I said, my sister actually bought a, a plague doctor.
Yes.
Crocheted plague doctor from there. And she was like, really? I said, yeah, go look it up. I said, they have some pretty cool things. I think introducing other businesses to events like that may be more geared towards them, because I could tell you the vendor, the girl, she was young. She was, you could tell she was probably a little quirky. So, it'd be right up her alley. And then once you start making those contacts, and y'all, the other thing I want to leave you with is, I don't think enough people talk about community. The one thing that they don't tell you about these events and markets and craft fairs is that it is a community. So when you go out there, something as simple as, and I do this all the time because I probably just don't know how to keep my mouth shut. Whenever I show up somewhere, I'm just like, hey, my name is Vivian. Da, 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 this is what I do. Da. And like, I like meeting other vendors that are going out to these things because you never know the kind of people that you're going to meet and who you know mutually, what type of information they have. If it's, the other thing that I think about often is this could be that person's first time doing anything like this. They want to feel like they have a friend for the day. Right.
Yeah.
And we even had this last event that I worked for, my corporate job. Afterwards, the girl across from us, well, the lady across from us, she was older, came over and she says to my coworker and I, she goes, you guys were the best neighbors. Like, thank you so much. You're so cool, this and that. Like, just saying, because I think it helped her to just feel like, hey, if I need something or whatever, I could walk over there and just talk to them. So
Yeah.
be friendly, go out there, actually enjoy doing this stuff. You guys are giving up free time to go work these events and craft fairs. Please show up and give it your full attention. If you guys are interested in more of these types of information on events and all of that, we do have on YouTube, we have some videos that Chelsea and I have done on, I think now we have 3 videos maybe of places we've gone out to, and we kind of just talk about their table display setup and what we loved about it and this and that, and community and stuff like that. So go check out our YouTube channel at The Seasoned Marketer. Also, be on the lookout for that new service that we'll be offering, the audits, because we want to be able to help you guys just kind of improve your displays.
Yeah. And if you have any other topics you want to hear about, maybe you have a very specific question that you have about events, please feel free to ask us. You can send us a DM. You can comment if you're watching this on YouTube. If it's not about events, it's just about marketing, you can comment that as well. We want to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Also, pretty please, could you leave us a review? Because it helps us. It helps show Spotify and Apple Podcasts that people are actually enjoying what we're talking about. I really hope you're actually enjoying what we're talking about. So please let us know. So leave a review.
And if Chelsea failed to ask with the cherry on the top, I'm asking with the cherry on the top.
With the cherry on top. Okay, well, that is this week's episode. Thank you for listening, and go be the best SOB you can be.